Hi everyone, HEARTLAND here, the internet's busiest music nerd. And it's time for a review of the new War on Drugs album, A Deeper Understanding. This is the fourth full-length album from the War on Drugs, a musical project spearheaded by singer-songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Adam Granduciel. And up until this point, Adam and the War have forged a pretty unique sound that somehow sits at the crossroads of folk rock, of psychedelic rock, and the driving repetition of krautrock. It's like listening to the Heartland anthems of Bruce Springsteen, but awash in the atmosphere of a modern shoegaze band, but like with a touch of Noi, or maybe like some Bob Dylan Highway 61 revisited, especially on the band's last album, Lost in the Dream, which in my opinion has been their best release to date. And while I do enjoy the pillowy, uplifting, blissful aesthetic of this record, the War on Drugs are yet to really wow me on an album, like from beginning to end. I think they have a cool aesthetic, but there's just something that's always kind of, I don't know, just like missing for me. Some of the experiments don't seem all that thrilling. Sometimes the band's sound is a little one-dimensional, or the songwriting and singing can be a little average, which I sort of anticipated would be the case with this new record over here because not many of the new singles have really stuck with me. However, I did notice that it seemed like there was kind of a newfound clarity to the War on Drugs sound, like Adam's vocals were a lot more upfront and clear, and I don't know, maybe with this record, Adam and the band could really like upend the group's sound and just go for something totally different. Maybe for the better, but I don't think that that's the case with this new project, unfortunately. While Adam has always been technically the frontman of the War on Drugs, he really puts himself in that position on this record. He really puts himself in those shoes. However, I don't really feel like he completely fills them. I don't think his whispery, Dylan-esque singing is really all that captivating. The most emotionally stirring moment on the entire record vocally was probably the closer, You Don't Have to Go. His singing seemed just a tad more expressive here, but it could also be because of me getting caught up in the very rich and kind of righteous piano chord progression here. Regardless, it's kind of too little too late at this point, at the very end of the album. And nor do Adam's lyrics thrill me on a lot of this record. Like when he really kind of brings the instrumentation back, puts a spotlight on himself on the song Knocked Down. Far away there is a star, raining through the night sky like a drop. Give 'em all a piece of the moon for me. Somehow I can make it rain, diamonds in the night sky, I'm like a child, and now I'm beaten up and weak. I don't know, it just kind of reads to me like a lot of cliched nature imagery that doesn't add up to a whole lot. It's not very specific, it's not very detailed, it's not very evocative. It's not very direct in its storytelling either, which is completely fine, not necessarily a bad thing. But if you're gonna go in a more abstract direction, like at least make your word choices interesting. And there are also a lot of moments on this record where the War on Drugs sound comes off a little less psychedelic and trippy and washed out, and more like a grand 80s rock production, wrapped up with a really bright sheen on it. I mean, the opening bars of the song Nothing to Find sound like the exhilarating start to a synth-pop song out of the new wave era, which is a really thrilling moment on the album. However, this cleanliness, this more synthetic and, I guess, tangible direction doesn't necessarily add up to great tunes like the introductory track, Up All Night, which sounds so stiff and so chopped up that it's like I'm just listening to a bunch of watery piano and drum loops. It's like I'm listening to Adam sort of stuck in the middle of a broken record or something. It's just really kind of hard to get lost in the groove of this one, which for the War on Drugs is kind of a bad sign. But this intro track is really kind of the exception to the majority of the album, where the instrumentation does typically flow very well, hits a good groove, sounds very natural. You get some nice chemistry and energetic momentum, melodies that are like sweet and crisp, like an apple in the fall. The song Pain, the song Holding On, the song In Chains as well, which in my opinion could have slid pretty seamlessly into the track list of the band's last record. These tracks for me are really high points on the album. Where Adam and the band kind of loses me is when they really kind of turn things down and try to mellow it out a bit too much, rely on Adam's balladry, his voice, his lyrics, his songwriting a bit too much, like on the 11-minute Thinking of a Place. Like, it's pleasant, but a few minutes in, I'm kind of looking for the door. The track really really could have ended right after that weirdly awkward, loud guitar solo that seemed really unsure of itself, like it didn't know what note it wanted to play next. Not often I hear a guitar solo that feels like that, but no, it just keeps going on and on and on and it is pleasant, but not much is going on. I'm equally unenthused by another ballad on here, Clean Living, which doesn't justify its 6-minute runtime. It's almost half as long as Thinking of a Place, and yet it feels as long. You know, overall, this album was really just kind of okay. I'm indifferent toward it, really, despite a handful of decent songs in the track listing. Because the tracks that really stood out to me and spoke to me the most on this album didn't really bring anything to the table that some of my favorite cuts from Slave Ambient or Lost in the Dream didn't already. Not only are they recycling ideas that have already been proven to work from their past records and not really changing them up all that much, but on this thing they've kind of shown their inability to work outside of their comfort zone effectively. And this newfound emphasis on the vocals and the lyrics on this record shows really just how lacking they are. On this record, the War on Drugs may be big on sound, but they're kind of small on substance. I'm feeling a strong 5 to a light 6 on this thing. Transition. Have you given this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe. And please don't cry. Just leave an angry comment in the comments if you're angry. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Over here next to my head is another War on Drugs review, or you can click on the link to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in another video forever.